My friends, we've hopped 3 years into the future. Why? Because FM26 is right around the corner, and we got to wrap this thing up. These guys could turn into managers. Who knows? By the way, FM26, you can get 22% off with the discount code in the description. All right, my friends, as you can see, it's June 30th of 2037, and if you're screaming outside, it's my kids playing. I promise, it's fine. So 3 years in, my first real question is CDB still with AC Milan? Is he a lifer? Has he just set down roots in Italy and he's happy and good to go? Let's find out. Yes, my friends, he's still with AC Milan and he's got an extra year? Is that an extra year? 2039? No, that was the original contract. I could have sworn he was 2038. We had a bunch of 2038s though, but just look at those stats. 30 and a half. I might it takes so long to vacate or holiday this forward. And like half the time the game crashes because I have every league loaded, but I am not going to unload leagues, my friends. We're going to see wherever they want to go, we'll make it happen. And yes, there's the attribute analysis for you. So still on 525 a week, worth 499 million at the top end. I think that's a bit aggressive for a 30 and a half year old. He's a legendary midfielder, to be fair. Let's just check because we got to go 3 years. I got to tell my brain. So it's 35, 36, 37, okay? Or 34, 35, 35, 36, 36. You get what I'm saying. 34, 35. No, we would have already seen the broken lower arm. So he stays pretty injury free. Good for him. And he's so consistent. I'm going to leave it zoomed in here so you, as the viewer, just get to see it a little bit at a time here. So he has 27 starts, 3 subs with 6 goals, 11 assists, and 4 players of the match. So he drops the number of total appearances in 34, 35. That must have been one of those knock injuries type thing where he's out for several weeks. Okay, but nothing devastating. 745 up until that point is his second highest rating at AC Milan. The previous was a 748, but that was 2029/30. He also gets 10 continental, 10 international. Not bad. Legendary. Okay, moving forward to 35, 36. He gets 32 starts, 1 sub, 10 goals, 751, his highest rating on the screen, my friends. Spoiler. Another 10 continental, another 10 and a sub international. You can pause if you want to look at all the specifics. And then this past season, 32 starts and 2 subs, 4 goals, 9 assists, 725. Only 8 continental, so AC Milan doesn't go as far as what it looks like. But again, another 10 international. He has just racked up. I mean, his best season thus far, let me zoom it back out. From a production standpoint and a rating standpoint, is last year when he's 28 and a half going to 29 and a half, which is like, he's in the prime of his life. 22 total goal involvements in the league, not to mention getting 5 international goal involvements, 3 continental, and so on. But he is rocking it out. You want to say getting an absolute value? Can you imagine spending 31 million on a midfielder and he turns out to be just a legend and he just stays forever? He doesn't ask to go someplace else. He just hangs out. That is just amazing. Just to make it a little bit easier, we're not going to look at every single club stuff, but obviously AC Milan in 2036, in May of 2036, so last season, they win the league. Prior to that, they win the league and the Coppa Italia. Doesn't look like they've gone very far or far enough to get an award, I guess, for CDB in the Champions League. We'll check those quickly. Oh, before we do that, Pep has been sacked and they've signed Daniel Bonera. That's not a name that I know. Pep gets sacked after finishing 3rd, which seems harsh because they finished first back-to-back seasons before that. And he was in charge for those 2 seasons, right? He's been in charge for 3 years. He wins you 2 titles and finishes, the two league wins and the cup win, and then you sack him. What happened? In 34-35, they get knocked out by Spurs in the Champions League round of 16. In 35-36, they get knocked out by Real Madrid. Wonder if Greg is still there. Who knows? On a 1-0 aggregate scoreline. You want to talk about a defensive set of games where it's like, boy, did I really get my money's worth for the thousands of euros I spent to get that ticket? But as you do. And then this year, they don't make it out of the league phase. Oh dear. So they lose to Benfica. They lose to they draw with Copenhagen. They lose to Nice. They lose to Nice 3-2. Oh my. Draw with Barcelona. They beat Rangers and they beat PAOK. And they lost to Bayern and they drew with Newcastle. That is a rough run. I guess that's why Pep gets the sack, and then they go to the Club World Cup. Of course. Okay, I've had to actually go back to my save point at the end of the 12th year because I can't see everything that has happened in the international side of things that far into the future. That's annoying. So the last time we saw CDB in Sweden, they'd beat Saudi Arabia. Actually, they'd swept the group stage and they beat Saudi Arabia at the World Cup. They get England in the round of 16 and they lose 2-0. CDB on a 6.4 on a yellow. Keeper does well. Noah Persson does well. Everybody else is kind of meh. So it's not just CDB's fault, I guess you could say. Then they go straight into Nations League A, and that's with Iceland, France, and Croatia. They draw. Boy, look at that game. 2 injuries, including the goalkeeper. They draw with Iceland. They lose to France. He's on a 6.0 there. Woof. They draw with Croatia on a 7.1. They beat France in the second game. He's on a 7.2. Another draw with Iceland on a 6.9. Jens Kondrup does a 5.9, and his right back, I think, partner, Fadi Swan, doesn't do well either. And then they draw again with Croatia, and he does a 7.3, but the keeper does a 6.0. Is that enough to keep them in the Nations League? Yes, surprisingly. 5, 6, and 7 points, so that is enough to keep them safe. I'm a bit surprised by that. Coming into 2035, it's time for Euro qualifying. Greece, he does a 7.9. Azerbaijan, he does a 7.6. Slovenia, he does a 7.4. Now I've popped us forward to the end of the 13th year so I could look at the rest of the Euro qualifying games. We're not going to look at these in great detail. It's Montenegro, Azerbaijan, Greece, Slovenia, and Montenegro again. Sweden does quite well. They're only drawing one game and winning all of the others. CDB plays well in those because, of course, he does. They go to the Euros. It doesn't go well. We'll look at that. Poland, they do a 7 point, or he does a 7.7. They win 2-1. Then they lose to Belgium in the group stage. He does a 6.5 and picks up a knock. Is that why they lost 2-0? Who knows? Austria bounces back. It must not have been a serious enough knock because that's only 5 days later. He's on a 7.7, but they only draw. That gets them to the second round where they lose to Germany 2-1. He's on a 6.9, and they're back into the Nations League. And again, hop this forward now to the end of the 14th year so we can see this. It does not go well in Nations League A. They only beat Iceland once. They lose to Iceland, they lose to England once, and then draw with England once. What a weird situation. Losing to Turkey twice, or Turkey A, however you want to pronounce it, just doesn't seem to go well. Hopping forward, just again, I'm going to breeze through these a little bit. World Cup qualifying group is Israel, Cyprus, Estonia, Gibraltar, Norway. They are on 6 points after 4 games. No, 8 points after 4 games. I can math. That's good. That is tied for first with Norway, but Norway's got the better goal difference. We'll have to see how that turns out. He does a 6.5 in the game against Israel, but it bounces back with a 7.4 in the win against Cyprus, a 7.5 against Estonia, and a draw on a 7.1 against Gibraltar. I'm curious of your thoughts. Is CDB just going to be a lifer? Is he going to stay? I mean, another 2 years, right? He'd be, 32 and a half? Does he take like a lesser contract, or does he go, I've made so much money, it doesn't matter, I'm out? What do you think? Leave a comment. Next up, we're going to check on Chris, because I'm not even sure if Chris is still here after this year. So let's go take a look at him. He is with Elversberg. Okay, interesting. He's there for another year on $5.5 a week. He has 8 total appearances from 36 to 37, right? Because 38 hasn't happened. That's a weird thing that FM does. So he was with Kaiserslautern. He plays a total of 9 total appearances in 34-35, but also picks up... No, he doesn't play for the second team at all. Disappointing. He's only on a 6.43. He plays 9 times for San Marino, so he plays total the same number of appearances, but more starts for San Marino that year. Then in the following year, 35-36, he only gets 4 appearances in the league for Kaiserslautern. Still in the Zweite Bundesliga. He gets 7 international appearances. None of this is going well. He does have the 1 cup start where he does a 7.0, so maybe the DFB Pokal first round is his bag. But he also plays for the second team a total 14 times and gets 6 goals. So you kind of wonder if that's like a keeping him fresh, like getting him match sharpness, but not enough to want to use him, because also that's only 18 total appearances between the first and second team, so that's half a season, which is strange. Then he moves on a free, so Kaiserslautern can't sell him or don't sell him, they just hold on to him. He goes to Elversberg, also in the Zweite Bundesliga, where he picks up 6 starts, 2 subs. He gets an assist. That is his 10th assist ever. Of course, 8 of those came at Real New York FC, so really his second non-amateur United States playing time arena. But he plays a 6.89. I mean, a 6.89 on 8 total appearances. I mean, 6 of those being starts, right? So that gives you the idea of, okay, it wasn't like he had one really high rating from the game he had an assist because he was a sub and the rest of them were trash, right? That's actually half decent. He still gets 7 international starts on the 647, which isn't so hot. So we'll have to see what happens because he does have a year extension on his contract. He's only on 5,500 a week, so his career is definitely flatlining. I mean, there are worse ways to make a living than to make, what is that, 22,000 euros a month, playing in the Zweites Bundesliga. Like at 30 and a half years old, I'd take it, all day. Oh, here we go. The last, okay, because I loaded the previous saves. Anyway, we move on. Injuries, is that what kept him out? Okay, he sprains knee ligaments in 2036, which is not this season, but the previous season. But maybe that influences why he went on a free. They just couldn't use him, and that was in all of this is obviously going to be in training pretty much. And he also has a damaged foot right before that, so he misses 7 weeks, like back to back to back, and he missed 4 weeks at the beginning of the season. So Kaiserslautern is like, what do you want from me? Like, you're injured. Not great. We're not going to look at all the individual ratings for Chris. Sorry, Chris. It's just kind of how the career's gone. But seriously, thank you for your support. Remember, all these folks have either supported me recently or while I took a 2-year break or currently. And Chris is one of the current supporters on Patreon. So thanks, man. Nations League D goes okay. They pick up 6 points. And then in Euro qualifying, they pick up 1 point all year long. That is brutal. We can actually see some of that. Okay, maybe. Why is that? Maybe this is the recent enough past. Chris does a 6-3 against Italy. He does a 6-9 against Bosnia and Herzegovina. A 6-7 against Poland. Not bad. I mean, he has the second highest rating on the team. Yikes. Marco Renzi picks up a red card and a 5.4 against Poland in the next game 3 days later. So that's not entirely Chris's fault. A 6.6, a 6.2, a 6.0, a 6.0. Okay, we're seeing some of these. Okay, this is going to go faster than I thought. 6.4 at a friendly, picks up an injury. 6.8 a couple days later, so the injury couldn't have been that bad. So doing okay against Gibraltar. These are all friendlies. Kazakhstan is another friendly. He does a 7.0. Go on, Chris. They lose 3-1. Woof. Keeper does a 5.9. Then they get into Nations League C. Wait, they were in D. Did they get out of the Nations League because of picking up, 3, 4, 5, 6 points? Okay. It doesn't go well. So they lose every game in Nations Leagues. Chris doesn't play in the first game. He plays in the second game. Does okay. 6.7, 6.5. Where's he at? 6.3. Switches to the left side, I think there. Picks up a yellow. Doesn't play against Wales and then against Luxembourg. Does a 6.9. Boy, their keeper situation is poor. And maybe it's just that they're just getting, hammered. And they scored in the 7th minute. Oh, the dream. Yay, we might be able to stay up against Luxembourg. And then they get smashed. 3 goals after that. Brutal. Then it's World Cup qualifying where they pick up a point early. Okay. Chris plays a 6.8 and gets a yellow. Not bad. Then plays a 6.2 against Romania. But, I mean, they had somebody sent off in the 70th minute. Maybe that has something to do with it. He gets a 5.9 and 2 yellow cards, so he gets sent off. But it's the 89th minute, so it doesn't matter. But he's going to miss he misses Portugal. I guess we could see it because it's World Cup qualifying. But 7-0. 7-0. Maybe Chris is like, I just want to go and be part of the setup in Portugal, but I can't play, so I'm going to go take a night off. Maybe that's what it was. So he's got a club. He's playing, kinda-ish. He had a slew of injuries last year. He's probably not going to get past the Zweite Bundesliga. We'll keep showing him as long as he's here. All right, let's go check on James. He is still with Feyenoord. He's still with Feyenoord. He's 115 grand a week with Feyenoord. Okay. Boy, we have really had some high earners, and that makes me happy. Like, that they're all kind of working out and not all getting stuck at obscure clubs, not making any money and not really playing. Look at the player traits on this guy. You can pause if you want. This is a thing of beauty. So this is back again, 34, 35. So this is two years ago. 2 years ago. I can do math. It's great. Live math. Everybody loves it. Hit the like button. Okay, 29 total appearances, all starts, 8 goals on a 686. That's okay, but that's a pretty poor rating. He had a 704 the previous season with 8 goals. He also had 5 assists then, so a little bit of a dip in form. Only 4 international, but he gets 3 goals on a 725. We'll go see what happened there. That's interesting. The next season, only 21 appearances, all starts. Did he get injured? We'll check. He's back to getting some more assists, 8 and 4, so 12 total goal involvements on a 703. That rating comes back up. He's back in the international, 8 total appearances, 703, and then this past season, 25 total appearances in the league, 715. I think that is James's highest rating. Since Benfica B in 29-30, his highest real rating ever, with 11 total goal involvements. But he is the number 10. They figured out the offense. It's only taken 5 years, but he had, to be fair, 5 assists in the first 2 seasons each. But you get what I'm saying. 8 assists, 2 players in the match on a 715. 14 continental. I just saw that. We have got to see what happened with Feyenoord. Okay, first, yes, he did. He broke his foot in 2035, in November 2035. So that 35-36 season, he's out for 3 months. And I think we're lucky because, right, that is November to December, January, February. Like, that is January transfer window time. So they said, James, you're a guy. We want you back. They didn't go buy a replacement, during that time. So that's probably a little lucky. I mean, it's not lucky to break your foot, but maybe lucky of how it kind of went, maybe. The other stuff is relatively minor. He does have a groin strain last about 7 months ago. He's out for a month. But he's avoided, other than the broken foot, missing a ton of time. A faster way of looking at what happened with Feyenoord is to see if they won the title anytime ever. So they've not won the title. You see, all the stuff with Feyenoord is just his personal, seasonal best 11 type stuff. And that's okay, but they've not won any silverware. And they've been that also ran, right? So since he's been there, they've never finished higher than second. So they bounced back to second in one of the seasons after dropping to third, and then they drop back to third again. This current season, they're only 8 points off. They are well ahead of Ajax. Goodness, Ajax has fallen off the charts. They are well off the pace in the season before that, which is unfortunate. And then before that, they finished second, but they're 12 points off. So PSV is the new dominant team in the Netherlands. In 34-35, they do make it to the Europa League semifinal against Liverpool, but they lose over 2 legs 6-0. The next season, they're in the Champions League, but they don't get out of the Champions League phase. They play AC Milan, and CDB is there, or should be, if I remember correctly, from an injury standpoint. Obviously, CDB's at AC Milan. James says the 6.7. Maybe that's because CDB was man-marking him really well, Oh, they also play Real Madrid, so maybe there's some, if Greg is still at Real Madrid, did they play each other? And that's right after he broke his foot. Oh, this is the game right before that. 4 days before playing Real Madrid, he breaks his foot. Gutting. This past season, they make it to the quarterfinals of the Europa League, again playing Liverpool. As a Liverpool supporter, a little concerned that Liverpool's not back-to-back, but in 2 of the 3 seasons is in the Europa League. But they get knocked out again, this time on a 4-0 aggregate scoreline. Luckily, in 2034, the second half of the year is only friendly, so nothing to worry about there for us to miss. And in early 2035, they only play 2 friendlies. What is the deal? It's 2035. There should be games, right? Like, why did they only play 1 game in April and 1 game in June? Is that a weird thing in FM where they just forget to schedule friendlies? Like, surely the national team should be playing. Am I crazy? I feel crazy. But then they go to World Cup qualifying, and it's a mixed bag. So against Brazil, it's a loss 3-2. James starts and does a 7.4. Not his fault. I just saw it. They lose to 9-man Brazil. 3-2. They do score 1 goal after they go down to 9 men in the 76th minute, but they cannot piece it together to get at least a draw out of that. That could be damaging because CONMEBOL qualifying is rough. Against Bolivia, they bounce back 3-1. James does a 7.8 with a goal. Against Peru, he apparently doesn't play. Oh, he's broken his foot. And then he misses Ecuador as well. Coming into 2036, March 29th, he's back from that broken foot on a 7.7, but they lose 3-2 to Argentina, and then they come back and they beat Venezuela 2-1 a couple days later. James comes off the bench and does a 7.0 in the victory. That's not all for World Cup qualifying. We'll come back to that. They've got the Copa America in between. Warm-up game against Bosnia and Herzegovina. He does a 6.4. They lose that game, which is probably not how you want to prepare for Copa America, is losing to Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then they draw with the United States, which, again, we are getting rid of our disbelief, whatever that's called. I can't remember the phrase off the top of my head. Suspension of disbelief, that's what it's called. James scores the goal. Let's bury the lead there, GHG. And he does a 6.6. How do you do a 6.6 with a goal at the Copa America? Yikes. Okay. It doesn't show that he missed a penalty or anything. And it's being held in Uruguay. Okay. Proud of the U.S. for flying down there and making that work. James on a 7.2, but they lose to Venezuela, and then they lose to Uruguay with the hosts. I mean, of course, he plays a 6.1 in a 3-0 smashing. But then they go straight back to World Cup qualifying in September, 6.7 in a draw with Uruguay. So they kind of, at least they get something out of it there. Lose to Chile on a 6.6. 2 wins here, Paraguay and Bolivia, but he doesn't play in the first one. He plays in the second one. He gets a 6.1 and an injury. Gutting. He doesn't do anything and he gets an injury. 6.1 on a 4-0. You're like, 4-0, surely he had some assists. Nope. Brazil, 6.9 in a loss. And then against Peru, what's he do? He does a 6.9. Hopping into this year, yes, my friends, World Cup qualifying is still not over, and it's already, for some reason, it defaults to September. All right, going back, they lose to Ecuador. He's there in a 6.7, and then they draw with Argentina. He does a 7.4. They play actually quite well. Argentina have a man sent off in the 43rd minute, and they don't get the equalizer until the 82nd minute. Let's see what the standings look like. Okay, oh gosh, how many games are there? Okay, there's 8 points between them and Peru. They haven't qualified, but it's pretty darn close, you would say. Now it's more of like, can we hop Ecuador? We'll find out. Was Gustav unhappy the last time we saw him? I think he was. I could be wrong. He's still with Juve. He's on 275 grand a week, so not much of a raise since we last saw him in all those years. He's played a bunch. Our guys seem to like Italy, which is kind of funny. Okay, going back to 34-35, he does 36 starts on a 7.14, his highest average rating yet. 4 assists as well as a center back. Go on then. That's the most number of assists he's ever had. 8 continental, 6 international. The next season, 33 appearances, 2 subs. The rest are all starts, obviously. Dip in the rating to a 6.96. I mean, he didn't have any assists, so that probably had something to do with it, right? Still involved in the continental and the international stage. And then this past season, 29 starts. I'm wondering if Gustav has either got some competition or some injuries. He's picked up some knocks maybe as he's aged. He gets 2 goals, though, and an assist. 2 players of the match on a 7.17. That is his highest rating ever. Interesting. 16 continental. Did Juve win like the Champions League or the Europa League? Once again, rolling in the milestones, they win the Europa League that year. We'll take a look at that. They won the Coppa Italia this past season, the Coppa Italia in the season that they won the Europa League. Nothing barren for 2 years, but they bounced back. From an injury standpoint, I mean, yeah, he has had a little bit more than you'd probably like, right? So starting in 34-35, where we would have seen him over here, twisted ankle, followed all the way across. 3 weeks, 6 days, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 days. So like that is probably why you're seeing some of the dip in his total number of appearances. Is he's picked up some knocks. Now, luckily, he's not had anything like a torn hamstring way back in 2024, my friends. But it's not great. Taking us back to 34-35, he does face, I would say, it's got to be Greg, right? Against Real Madrid. They don't get out of the league phase in the Champions League. The following season, this is the Europa League final. They beat Liverpool. That means Liverpool, I think, 3 years in a row is in the Europa League. Yay. And it's a 2-1 win. They get the winner in the 90th minute. Gutting. Gustav comes off of the bench for that on a 6.9. Did he play in the Coppa Italia final? He did on a 6.7. when the rest of the defense looks pretty solid. Okay, let's go back to the semifinal. He does a 6.3 and gets injured. Maybe these things are related against Antwerp in a draw. And then in the second leg, he's back. So it's not like the manager said, I don't like you anymore. And that's only a week later. He does an 8.1. That must have been where he got some assists. But they won the Europa League against Liverpool. Yay. Then this past season, again, they go to the Coppa Italia final. AC Milan, CDB is there. They beat CDB, and Gustav does a 7.0. They hold him in check. It was all clearly Gustav. They also play Real Madrid. Again, we haven't seen Greg yet, but he plays a 7.3 in the Champions League semifinal. But that is a 3-3 game. That is a phenomenal game. Look at that. 3rd minute, 24th minute. They're up 2-0. Bellingham pulls one back in the 29th. No, sorry. They're up 3-0 before Bellingham pulls one back in the 20th. Oh, you're up 3-1 in the 29th minute, and you can't get past them. Of course, in the first leg, Real Madrid beat them 3-0. So it kind of almost, it did matter. If it was 3-0, 3-0, obviously that would have mattered, but not enough to get over the line. I think this is neat because we're getting to see who they're playing for. So Zidane only lasts 2 years and then leaves of his own accord is what it looks like. And then Eddie Howe comes in. Okay, fair enough. Again, we're going to breeze through the international Nations League B. It looks like it goes all right for Hungary. So they, what is that? 4 wins out of 6 games. The other 2 are losses. We can't see the ratings, unfortunately, but surely that's enough to keep them at least in League B, if not go up, right? Against Austria and Ukraine. I can't do the math in my head right now. Going into 2035, you've got Euro qualifiers. So a loss to England, Gustav does a 6.4. A draw with North Macedonia, he does a 7.2, but the keeper does a 5.9. So you might argue those 2 goals, the keeper not helping the team out. Against Romania, Kirkaz gets sent off, but they lose because it's 45 minutes of not having a full 11. Gustav does a 7.1. They concede in the 75th minute. That's probably gutting, to be honest with you. Doesn't show him against Georgia or England. I'm not sure this is where the injuries are. Or North Macedonia again. All those are losses. But he comes back against Romania on a 7.4 in a win, and then a 7.1 in a loss. Is that them out of the Euros, or are there more games? They make it to the Euro playoff semifinal. He does a 7.9. It goes to extra time, but they beat Iceland, and then they beat Switzerland in the final. He does a 7.2. So he is a mainstay, obviously, at this point. That gets them into the Euros. They play Croatia. He's not there. Not sure why. Because he plays against Portugal. Did they just say Croatia's not very good? Against 70 or in front of 74,000 fans? Whatever. He does a 7.4 and a loss to Portugal, which is gutting. Everyone else played okay. But the keeper, again, 6.1. Doesn't play against Italy. And then they get to the second round and he doesn't play against France. Has he fallen out of favor somehow? Or did he get an injury? No, that can't be it. He didn't have any injuries in this time period. That's not good. That's not good. Okay, Nations League A is Denmark, Serbia, and Italy. They draw Denmark. He does a 5.9. Yikes. They draw. They lose to Serbia. He does a 7.2, bounces back. In the games they're doing well, he's either not there or, oh, geez. Italy, 6.6. Keeper, again, 5.9. 7.0 and a draw against Serbia again. They lose to Denmark in the second game. He plays a 6.0 and then doesn't play against Italy. Hopping forward to this year, actually, let's go back. They get relegated out of the Nations League, as you might expect. They only get 2 points there. Then in this year, it's World Cup qualifying. It's Bosnia, Herzegovina, Lithuania, Switzerland, Armenia, France. Tough group. They get a win against Bosnia and Herzegovina. No, sorry, Lithuania is a friendly. Coming into 2037, their World Cup qualifying group looks to be Bosnia and Herzegovina, Switzerland, Armenia, and France. They start off with a win. He plays a 7.2, so he's back in the good graces. That's so weird about the Euros. I'm not sure what happened there. The other game was a friendly against Lithuania. Then they play Switzerland. He does a 6.6 and a draw there. They draw again, back-to-back draws, but he plays a 7.4 in the second game. So they find themselves currently on 5 points with a game in hand against first place, but a game behind second place France. we'll have to see how it goes. But honestly, when you look at Gustav, he's been at Juve for so long, since 2024. That is an eternity. And he's a darn good looking player. Look at those hatch. That's just delicious, isn't it? Just absolutely delicious. Next up, we've got Marcus. He's still at Real Sociedad. That surprises me. He's now on 73,000 a week. His contract is up in a season, and he's wanted by Parma. Are we gonna have all Italy by the end of the series? Not sure. He does have a 1 year contract extension. The release clause they have is 102 million. Again, I know in La Liga that's a lot, but I mean his value is not even half of that. You know, like what are we doing with those? Okay. It starts off poorly, you could say. In 34 and 35, he went. Okay, let me show you the previous season. The last season you saw was this, okay, or I should say this: 3 starts, 18 subs. The next season is 3 starts, 4 subs on a 7-1-2 with 2 goals, and then 7 international with 9 goals. He's broken the 1 goal per start internationally. He's off that. He's excelling. But it's not all bad news, my friends. He comes in the next season. I don't know if there was that guy who was like 30, 31. Maybe he aged out or they sold him. Marcus is there. 30 starts, no subs. 17 goals. That's more than 1 every other game. 1 assist on a 6.9. You know what? After having not played, that is the most games he has played. That's tied for the most games he's played since his last season at Mainz. Everything else is in the teens except for the 21 appearances, which were mostly substitute appearances. So 30 actual starts, he gets to shine, and he has only 4 international and only 1 goal. Surely he's not been replaced internationally. Surely not. Okay, then this past season, 27 starts, 1 sub, 9 goals. So his production goes to 1 every 3 games. He picks up 4 assists, 691, so about the same rating. He's back in the international side. He's in some continental, 9 starts there. So that maybe that's a rotation where they don't play him in the league because they're starting him in. I would imagine Real Sociedad is more like the Europa League. We'll go take a look at that because that'll be the first that he's done that, isn't it? Because Mainz was like in the bouncing up and down in the relegation zone. So he's finally kind of broken through as the guy at age 30 and a half. I mean, technically 29 and a half, or maybe 28 and a half to 29 and a half, and now 29 and a half to 30 and a half. You get the point. Let's go see what he's been up to. Oh, gosh, look at I'm going to zoom that. That's not good. I mean, it looks worse because they are on the list back to back to back with 1 slight injury in between. But going all the way back to November 35, sports hernia, 4 weeks, comes right back after that, right? So November to December, they're working him back in the squad, and he sprains his knee ligaments for a month and a half. And then nothing until just a couple months ago where he has a tight groin, and then he tears an abdominal muscle, and he's out for 2 months. So that explains, that's interesting that torn abdominal, not interesting, it's horrible, that his torn abdominal muscle comes towards the end of the season, because it also meant he got to play in all like the continental stuff before it went bad. So it doesn't look, unfortunately, like they win anything. He wins the Golden Boot, the Asian Nations Cup Golden Boot in 2035, but from a club standpoint, they don't win like obviously the Conference League or anything like that. Going all the way back to the beginning, they lose to Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey semifinal. That's probably against Greg, would be my guess. Was that 3-2, 1-0? Yeah, Greg's there. I was looking, I zoom it in, but you could see Greg scored in the 20th minute, so they lose on a 4-2 aggregate scoreline. The next season, they get knocked out by Villarreal in the Copa del Rey quarterfinal. They don't have any Continental that season. But in the following season, the most recent season, they are in the Europa League, which I think is Marcus's first experience. And they start him. He scores in the 13th minute against Wolfsburg because my man loves an early goal. Freaking love that. Beat Austria Vienna. They draw with Troyes, because we don't say half the letters in French. Old lady plays will correct me. He does a 7.7 against Midland, scores in the 34th minute. I am going to look at these because Marcus hasn't got to experience this. So Marcus, thanks for your support. Beats AEK 2-1. He doesn't score in that game. Is he even involved? Yes, he is. Maccabi Haifa. They win that game 2-0. He's not involved probably because of that injury. Doesn't play there. That's a Copa del Rey. Europa League, he's back on a 6.8. A loss to Olympiacos. They beat Fenerbahce. He doesn't score. He doesn't play. He's back in the league scoring here. Goes to Fiorentina, Round of 16 first leg, 7.2, no goal, but they win 2-1. Then he gets a goal in the 5th minute because he loves an early goal, because yes, he does. He plays a 7.1 in the second leg to secure them going on to the quarterfinals, where they lose to Chelsea. Fair play, I guess, if you're Real Sociedad, right? He does a 6.4. They get smashed 3-0, and then they draw 1-1, but it doesn't matter. He does a 6.7. But that's how he got so many. He got the league phase, and then they made a run. I'd say quarterfinals of the Europa League and losing to Chelsea with all the players and money they got. Fair play. The second half of 2034 was the AFF Championship, which Marcus wouldn't have been involved in anyway. In the Asia Cup, they go all the way to the quarterfinal before losing to China 4-3. You could see Marcus scores in the 10th and the 17th and the 20th and the 46th and the 73rd. He is their man for the most part. Gusti Riati is in the mix as well. Who's 28 and looks pretty good, finishing 9. Wow, okay. But they lose to China 4-3. Marcus scores a last ditch. Actually, they score 2 goals last 88th minute and 94th minute. It is not enough. Oh, what a game. China scores in the 91st minute. Oh. So what? It was 3-2, and they're pushing on, and then they concede a 4th goal, and then Marcus scores the 3rd goal for Indonesia, but it's too little too late. They play some friendlies going all the way to November. Malaysia World Cup qualifying doesn't show Marcus involved. I can't remember if this is probably when he was severely injured. So they lose the first game. They draw the second game. Hopping into 2036, he's back. They lose 3-1 though to Japan. They beat Pakistan 1-0. Marcus does a 6.9 in that game. They have a man sent off, and they still survive the last 20-ish minutes with added on time, I guess. They beat Malaysia 3-1. He scores in the 28th minute, but he's not alone. Dadang Eko scores in the 1st minute, and Gusti Riati scores in the 6th minute. Indonesia, maybe it's just Indonesia likes to score early. Goodness me. They also had a red card, and they still survive. What a game. What a game. 6.5 Japan in a loss. They lose to China. 6.6 in a yellow. They draw with Iraq on a 0-0 ball draw. Back against Hong Kong. Scores in the 4th minute, because that's what he does. On a 7.4, they win that game. They lose to South Korea. He plays a 6.4, but they had a man sent off in the 73rd minute. They're already down 2-0. The game's over at that point. That's probably a frustration red card. He scores in the 1st and the 20th minute against Iran, though. Of course he does. He actually plays really well. The rest of the team does mostly just average, except the keeper. And then they draw with Iraq. What a group. And he does a 6.6, unfortunately, in that game. Then in 2036, it's the AFF, where Thailand goes all the way to the final and loses, I think that's a 2-1 aggregate loss, right? In the second leg. If they lost the first game 2-0 and a 1-0 against Thailand in the next leg. Taking us to 2037, World Cup qualifying still going on, my friends. They make it to the 3rd round here. Marcus does a 6.9 and a draw against China. Are we still in the 3rd round? Yeah, it was the 3rd round last time. Then they play Hong Kong and win 3-1. He scores in the 11th minute and the 86th minute to seal the deal on a 7.7. Lost to South Korea. South Korea is like Indonesia's bogey team. They've lost 2-0 to them several times. He's not involved. I can't remember if he had a knock. And he's not involved in the game against Iran with a win there. So they have made it to the 4th round of qualifying. They're going to take on Thailand and Uzbekistan, which will be interesting. Can they get revenge on Thailand next time? Last thing on Marcus, Parma is reluctant to make an offer when the asking price is so high. Negotiations? Chase has got a new club, my friends. Let's get right to it. He is now in UAE, but that's not all. That's not the only place he's been. Let's go back in time to 2034/35, where he is at PSG and does nothing. Not even playing for PSG2. I don't know if that's an age thing or he's just the official backup, right? He doesn't play a single game. He plays 15 internationally with 5 clean sheets on a 6.77. That means in 10 games they gave up 18 goals. 1.8 per game, not great. But he moves to Leeds, 15 million. They bring him in as the starter. 36 starts, 1 sub. What is with the subs? What is with the subs? Why would, if he'd started 36, help riddle me this, viewer. If he started 36 games, why did he sub in another league game? Why were they playing the other keeper in the first place? Maybe it was at the end of the season. Maybe like it didn't matter and then the keeper got hurt. That's the only thing I can think of that makes sense. Anyway, also 7 cup games. Okay. He plays all right. He doesn't play outstanding, but keeper rating about a 6.75, right? 7.7 if you round it down or average it out, I should say. 7 international on a 7.37. International goes very well that year for him. And then he stays with Leeds another season. 43 total appearances, still in the championship, so they don't get promoted. I should have mentioned that with the move. He goes from League 1 to the championship. 43 starts, 43 conceded, 14 clean sheets, a 6.88. That's actually not bad, right? That's less than a goal per game giving up, considering the 14 clean sheets. Cup doesn't go well, 6.4. Yikes. But 8 international and 9 conceded on 3 clean sheets. So he's playing, but he's just moved from Leeds to Al Wahad, to Al Wada. Wada? Apologies. So Leeds make a profit. They make 6 million euros on him. It must have just happened because I can't see any stats. Yes, it happened 9 days ago, and he's on a 4-year deal. My man is all about that bag. 94,000 a week, 4.3 million loyalty bonus. Why? Maybe Leeds. Did Leeds buy somebody? They don't have a keeper right now, so who knows if Chase wanted to go? I mean, they have a keeper, but it's Jonathan Lewis who's listed as a backup, and it's these guys that are listed as backups as well. So it's either Chase wanted to go, or they came in with such a good offer that Leeds is like, yeah, I can't say no to that. And they finished 6th last season. This is not like, man, you'd think you got a keeper that's giving you less than a goal conceded per game on average, or exactly a goal per game on average, but in the, right? Take out the clean sheets. Am I doing the math wrong there? I am doing the math wrong there. Yes, he conceded more than 1 goal per game in the games they conceded on average, but conceding 1 per, I'm doing way too much math. And he's remained relatively injury free, right? Like the only thing he's had that's major on the entire list, at least as of recent, is a calf strain. It's not like 5 years ago now. Okay, I've got to know. I've gone back a previous season to 2036, June 2036. He's wanted by Monaco, but they didn't have the financial power to do so. I mostly wanted to see his contract. So he's on 43.5 a week. So his new contract is more than double what he was on with Leeds. So is it just that, like, hey man, by that point, he's just he's 30 and a half when that transfer just happened. And it's like, I can go double my wages. Sorry, guys. All right, now let's go look at the international. We're starting at 2035. Nothing but friendlies happened in the second half of 2034. It's the Asian Cup group stage. He does a 7.2, a 6.9, a 7.5, and a 7.6. They make it to the quarterfinal where they lose to South Korea, who is apparently everyone's bogey team, winning by a 2-0 scoreline. Chase does a 6.2. They have a bunch of friendlies. They lose to Brazil. Chase does a 6.8. Not his fault, even though they conceded in the 5th minute. Must have done, or maybe they had so many shots and he blocked all of them that it was just like, yeah, no, it's not his fault. I'm going to take us down to World Cup qualifying in the second round. 7.7 picks up a red injury in a win against Lebanon. He's out then against Afghanistan. They win that one 1-0. In 2036, though, he's back. Tajikistan 7.6 in a win. Afghanistan 7.7 in a win. Lebanon 7.6 with another knock in a win. Tajikistan, though, he's back. That's 5 days later, so it must not have been that bad on a 7.6. My man, goalkeepers bloom late, right? So, like, he's coming to his own then. They beat North Korea, does a 7.2. They lose to Japan 3-0. I feel like we've seen a lot of Japan 3-0s and South Korea 2-0s throughout this. He does a 5.6 and picks up an injury. No one else played well except Charlton Elcock, and Chris Wright on a 6.9. Thailand, they get the win. He's not there. 7.0 against Qatar, though. Why didn't he play against Thailand? Was he still coming off of, I guess, this? Okay, these are all together. Boy, 4 games in like a week and a half. So he doesn't play against Thailand, but they win. Against Qatar, he plays on a 7.0. Philippines doesn't play. They win 4-0. But he's back against Japan with a 2-0 loss this time on a 6.5. It's not over yet, my friends. Still in the third round. 7.7 against North Korea. 7.8 as a keeper. Go on Chase against Thailand. We're finally seeing he had a bunch of those, like, I'm going to sub in for somebody injured, or I'm going to play a 6.4. And he's finally, like, cooking. And that is so nice to see. Then Qatar, a draw, a 6.3. Why did I say that? Why did I say that, my friends? I've doomed him. Alas, they did have a man sent off in the 53rd minute, which I'm guessing was also a penalty because there's a goal scored at the same time. Second yellow could be double jeopardy, so they gave a pen, but it doesn't say pen. I don't know what happened there. And then they draw the Philippines. He is on a 6.8. That leaves Australia qualified. Boy, Japan on 30 points. 10 for 10 for Japan. That's impressive. Chase gets to go to the World Cup. Last but not least, let's go check in on Greg. Greg's with Spurs. Oh, I had not seen it. I had not seen it. How long's he been there? He's just moved. He's just moved. Okay. All right, let's take our times, my friends. 34-35. You can see all the stats here. They do 11 continental or 12 continental appearances, so they make a run there. Plays exceptionally well. 12 total goal involvement. So a bit of a drop off because he had 17 the previous season and 16 the season before that. So a little bit of a drop off, but his rating is higher. So his rating is a 7.24, which if I look up until that point, it's his highest until the following season when it's a 7.28. So he does well there. 5 goals, 13 assists, my friends. 18 total goal involvements. Love that. Another 13 continental. Love that. International seems to be, well, maybe that's all the qualifying. I was going to say, going well. Did Ireland make a run? It could just be qualifying. He only gets 3 goals, no assists on a 7.15. We'll see that. And then in his final season for Real Madrid, 17 total goal involvements in the league, 15 continental starts with a sub with 2 goals, 1 assist on a 7.05. And he does an 8.46 average internationally for Ireland with 5 total goal involvements. Zooming us back out here, you can see now they've sold him to Spurs for $63 million. So they buy, I mean, remember that release clause? I was like, the release clause at Torino, I was like, that seems a little low. And then the release clause at Parma seemed a little low. And Real Madrid just absolutely cooked with him. It took a little bit, and we were nervous about that, but he just absolutely cooks. He goes to Tottenham on 400,000 euros a week with a 6.25 loyalty bonus. That's just disgusting. It's only a 2-year deal. Are Spurs in like a win now, or are we just moved to the point where 63 million is nothing? Okay, he's the only player they bought thus far because it happened literally the day before in the save. They brought in 249 million the season before with 185 million out, so fairly balanced, right? The rest is made up with your finances, that your tickets and using the stadium to host concerts and whatever. What happened to 35-36? 22 million in, 8 million out, no transfers. Essentially, weird. And the previous season before that, 165 in and 81 million out. So I'm just Spurs. Oh, Spurs doing. Oh, okay. We got people in the audience that are gonna be happy. They finished third. So is this like buy now, win now type thing? It just happened. So it's maybe not concerning that at 30 and a half, he's just considered an important player and not listed on the subs. Maybe it's just like he literally just showed up and they haven't like juggled everything, maybe. But man, 63 million plus 400,000 a week for 2 years seems aggressive. I'm realizing now I didn't do Chase's milestones. We'll go back and do that just to make sure. But won the Supercopa. One that is this the long version of the Copa del Rey? Is that I forgive my ignorant Americanism. Maybe that's what that means. But they didn't win the league. Interesting. Didn't win the league here. They haven't won the league since 2035. He's the International Player of the Year several times, you know, as you would expect. Going back to 2033, they did win the Club World Cup. I was like, World Cup winner? What? Oh, it's the Club World Cup. Yeah, that seems more realistic. This setup with Ireland shows them in a 4-4-2, but he's like the right center mid, which is interesting. Going all the way back to 2034, Nations League doesn't go well. They only get 2 points. I'm not going to go back and look to see how involved he was or not. It doesn't go well. They get relegated, I would imagine. Going into Euro qualifiers, their group is Cyprus, Northern Ireland, Bulgaria, and Portugal. They beat Cyprus. Greg scores a goal in the 87th minute. What a game. You have a man sent off in the 3rd minute, and you survive until the 87th minute. Somebody gets sent off for Cyprus, and Greg scores at the same time. So I'm not sure what the deal is there. Can we see that? We can see that. I mean, we can't see the highlights. We can't see what happened. There's a second yellow card. Not sure. Doesn't matter. Greg scores the winner. They draw with Northern Ireland. What a group, by the way. Ireland and Northern Ireland. 6.6 there. 7.1 in the second game against Northern Ireland in a win. A draw with Bulgaria. He doesn't play that. A draw. Fair play. With Portugal does a 7.2. A draw with Cyprus, probably disappointing. He plays a 7.9. He and Kieran Hui are like, guys, let's go, but they can't get the job done. A win against Bulgaria on a 6.8, and he scores the only goal against Portugal. They draw with Portugal and beat Portugal. What has happened on the Emerald Isle, my friends? I don't know, but I love it. Starting 2036 is some friendlies. We're just going to skip those. We're going to go straight to the Euro group stage where they draw with Serbia. He's on a 7.0. They draw with Georgia 2-2. He's on a 6.9. And they draw with the Netherlands, which is like a fair result, but I'm guessing. Oh, that's why. Yeah, 3 points is not enough to get them out of the group. Unfortunately, he does a 6.9. Nations League B, they're with Ukraine and Greece and Israel. They lose the first game. He's not involved. He's not involved in the second game in a draw against Greece. Did he pick up an injury? I don't think we've looked at that yet. Okay. He's not involved in the first 4 games, and he's back for the 5th and 6th game. 7.8, scores a goal, 2-0 over Ukraine, and then a 1-0 victory. He's on an 8.1 against Israel. That's enough to keep them. Oh, they miss getting promoted back to League A by 1 point. Ukraine goes up. 2037, it's time for World Cup qualifying once again, my friends. 7.2 in a draw with Wales. They smash Andorra 6-0. Is Greg the penalty taker? He scores a penalty in the 3rd minute. Look at those ratings for Ireland. 9.9 for Greg, 9.4 for other Greg. Okay, let's just have a quick. There's too many Greg B here going on. Gregory Bros and Greg Bowie, or Bo, whichever. It doesn't matter. 2 9.9s for Ireland. I mean, you'd expect that on a 6-0, but my goodness. Then they beat Luxembourg. Goodness me. He had 8.7 with a goal in the 82nd minute, but he doesn't take the penalty. So maybe it's like a, hey, you earned the penalty, you take it? I'm not sure. They still have Turkey, Andorra, Wales, Luxembourg, and Turkey again to wrap up World Cup qualifying. Currently, they find themselves top of the group. Technically, Luxembourg have got a game in hand, but I'm not too worried about that. They're tied, 7 points each. They've got the goal difference over Turkey. Oh, how great is this? Shane Duffy is the manager that's on this run with them. Love that. Maybe this explains some of the missing the games, right? So in September 2036, he has a damaged foot. He's out for 2 weeks. So that's perfectly bad timing for the 4 games in the September/October window. So he misses those games. Hopefully it doesn't damage them too much. Okay, now I'm going, did I show you this? I'm not sure, but you can see all the awards here for Chase if you want. Nothing with Leeds, essentially. Other than the Australia and Leeds seasonal best 11s. All right, my friends, I think I'm going to start sorting these by expiration date of their contracts because we are getting to the point, they're 30 and a half, and the next one is probably going to be 2 or 3 seasons into the future. I may do 2 seasons because we're getting to the point where people start disappearing, right? And I don't want to lose the player entirely. But James has got a year left. Marcus has got a year left. Chris has got a year left. I think Chris clearly is the one that's going to disappear the first, would be my guess. But it's interesting that aside from Chase, everybody is expiring in the next year or 2, which makes sense as they get older. But I can't believe Greg's contract. That's insane. If you've enjoyed this, my friends, make sure you hit that like button. I'm trying to not make this an hour and a half long, which is why I've condensed the 3 years down. Let me know if you enjoyed that because I'm trying to get the series done before FM26, but also not cut stuff out. So if I've missed something that you want to see, leave a comment on that as well, and I'll do my best to reply. We'll see you next time.